right? And besides, it's
Okay.
oh my God, camera's on.
I didn't give you the countdown, man.
Really? No countdown. The camera's on. Well,
Mhm.
well. Okay, so go ahead. So
Yeah. So just we've got the YouTube channel up, and yeah, starting to put our videos up there. But I think
datalogical services at gmail.com. Is that
yeah,
it?
that's right. So that's our Google account, which enables us to have a YouTube account. And yeah, we've set up a little channel in establishing a playlist, which will have the series of talks that we're doing now.
Are you going to entitle them then?
That's something I was going to ask you about as well. You know what?
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's give it a catchy name. We're in this to have fun, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Right now
Right.
it's the Danny and Troy show, which is pretty
perfect.
boring.
That's what it is.
It's not. It's kind of catchy. Yeah.
Yeah. The dog and pony. I'll be the dog. You can be the pony.
Okay.
Unless you want to switch, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is right now, and yeah, episode 1, episode 2 is now up there and about to be made public. What I was considering is about our bios, or just in the text area of the post on YouTube.
Interesting.
Yeah, we get an opportunity to give a quick overview. So yeah.
Speaking of which, I would like to segue now, because we're always jumping around.
Yeah.
Or I am, about a bio.
Yes.
Today at 3:30 North Carolina time, I had a call with Ryan Coates.
Yes.
Right?
From
Run the World and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Run the World and shit. And very nice guy, I got to tell you, 23 years old, right?
What? Young.
From San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
And it went very well, I must say. I spent the first 16 minutes upon his request telling him about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all the important stuff, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then gave him a chance, and he took like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Ryan, that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, but that's the way it went. I was just talking to him, just like I'm talking to you, just like I talk to everybody. And I had a funny feeling just watching his eye movement, that somebody else was there listening.
Okay.
Right. Which I don't mind. I don't care. And he said, I'm in charge of it all. I'm not the CEO, but I run the whole thing.
Okay.
I guess that included the world too, right?
Maybe.
And so, I had told him, I skipped around a lot. And I said, Ryan, I want you to know that as I was telling my story, that I think I know a lot of people who really could use this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And didn't bring up any past negative comments from anybody.
Sure.
And said, Ryan, I really think you guys got something here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what we're in it for is, to augment what you have already and make it look better. I said, we've got a program that transcribes everything we're saying, and got a nice positive reaction from him. And I said, and besides the fact, which I want to talk about more later about this union, I said, you got 104 data scientists around the world who might be able to come up with something that you might like.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I understand from Frank that principally, you don't give compensation or rewards or, commission for me bringing, animals to your door. And he said, I said, uh-oh, what does that mean? And he said, well, even with Frank and people like that, so we like to compensate them in a different way.
Mhm.
Now, this guy is doing far too much for an organization that is growing far too fast. And I'm not telling you anything I didn't tell him.
Sure.
And I said, I'd be happy to be your salesman
Yep.
if it should come to that, which is what I'm doing now. But I said, I'm not going to bring you a client that's going to bring you $100,000 million and get nothing for it. I said, if you were my friend, I'd probably do it for nothing. And who knows, it may end up that way. I said, we'll see.
Mhm.
But we've got a lot we can offer. And I'll talk it over with Troy. And then maybe the three of us can chat again later and give you a better idea without giving our game away, right? Well,
Mhm.
Ryan, you don't need us, just call blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And you work something out with them. And of course, we'll just be the humble little people that we are. And tell our grandchildren who's sitting on our knee that, I could have bought land at the beach for $1 an acre.
Mhm.
That kind of sad
Yeah.
story.
Right.
So he said that if a person I told him, for instance, like what Expo 2020, I brought that.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
did bring that one up by name. And I told him, I also said, a little bit about Bhutan and happiness conference and things like that, right?
Yep.
And I said, I really can do you guys a lot of good. Besides the fact, I said, I'm not going to talk tech with you because that's Troy's job. But, I'm kind of like the mouth of the organization. So I want to bring this in focus to you.
Mhm.
And I said, I think we should really figure out a way to work together because we could add a lot to what you're doing already. And not to mention what I can do.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of stuff going
Yeah.
on. And we'd
Yeah.
be more than happy to work something out with you.
That's
So I
great.
think he took the bait and he principally said, and I'm cutting that conversation short, by like 25 minutes.
Mhm. Mhm.
He's going to talk it over with his people,
Okay.
with the CEO and whoever else is, in the mix, where
Yeah.
he in charge of development, business, blah, 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 everything. The guy's doing everything.
Right.
And so I said, let's find a way where we can work together.
Mhm. Mhm.
And something happened in my mind where I realized we're spending our time and energy in the wrong way.
Mm. Great.
We are trying to solicit membership in a union that, period,
Mhm.
when we have over 100,000 professionals, I would like to say, who identify themselves within the aegis of data science. And we should be advertising jobs, positions, opportunities, such as, maybe something with Ryan,
Yes.
to these people, instead of letting them, take advantage of us, take advantage of you. I think it's a sobering moment, Troy, really,
Great. Yeah.
to point out, you already know, but I get to play the asshole, the bad guy all the time, and I don't mind it. In saying that we need to change our approach,
Okay.
because you're spending a lot of time and energy and resources on something that is not producing anything for
I
us. Right?
agree. Yeah.
I mean, it could be a sequoia and provide lumber for us in like
Mhm.
350 years,
Mhm. Mhm.
but we'd probably be out of the picture by then.
Yeah. No.
And I seriously doubt our portraits would be hanging over the boardroom table.
Yeah.
You have something
Right.
you want to say? Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
I totally agree. I think, yeah, there's a lot going on just, to maintain the union or the group, such as, Jimmy, his mother's not well, and then I'm recruiting another guy, CN, to take her place. So yesterday, a lot of time was taken up on that, and then, kind of following up on the people that have, showed an interest and in scheduling calls. But, from what you're saying, and I think it's great feedback and experience, I guess, more to witness that what we just did. So you went out and you promoted data logical services, which I believe is such a unique and valuable service. Your combination with my combination of skills coming together to, be able to offer this, like you said, I think it doesn't give it justice, but to be the salesperson, but be backed up by the technical expertise of, the components of data science.
Of which I have great confidence in, and you.
Well, that's right. And it's not just me, but, this pool of assets that we have inside the 104,000 members in LinkedIn. And that's right. Well, at the moment, I'm kind of sifting through it, going, who's the right person? Where are they? And I'm doing, hey, come on over here. Is it you? And then going, okay, maybe in 2 or 3 years, you'll be the right person, and then trying to move on to the next one. But if we shift it around and say, we've got this interesting project, here's an opportunity, and we're just going to have people go boom, 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 line up, and then we can say, we'll take you. And yeah, if we can have a process and a system like that, I think it would make it a lot more efficient. So, and the good thing is, is we don't need to put all our eggs in one basket, to say, to coin a phrase like that, in terms of just counting on run the world. Because, if we can get you in front of any Ryan type
Any
person,
sucker,
someone who's in that, space, being able to, like we're saying, a decision maker, and understand and communicate, what's going on for him, and appreciate what we've got to offer, then, we're going to have things lining up for us as well. And I think that will give it the fuel that, we've been looking to scramble up, in terms of making sure we can, keep or establish actually a momentum of productivity.
Yeah, and we need that. It's the
right.
difference between. It's like somebody once commented to me about what they were doing was like rocking in a rocking chair.
Okay.
They said, I'm rocking, but I'm going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
They felt like they were doing something, right?
Yeah.
But you were going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to rock. I want to rock in another way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Without the chair.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's a better beginning, or a better continuance than if we were to try to get blood out of this turnip.
Exactly.
It's just not working, and it's wearing me out.
Sure.
Right. And I want to do something where we have better results.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you that was Article 1, or maybe Article 3 of 3. The other one was George, right?
Mm-hmm.
George is persistent, if nothing else. And so he sent me Profit and Loss. I think I sent to you.
Yeah.
And I also sent you his conversation, I think he called it, right, with me about what his program has to offer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes answers come rather quickly, especially, we've known each other for what, 3 years, George and me and you, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
George is in Moscow, of course. And I had an answer that came to me really quick. I said, George, because I told him before, I said, George, I never asked you for a piece of paper. Now I want you to, give me a piece of paper. While I had talked with Mark, who sent me, I told him, I said, Mark, I can't send this to a potential sponsor, investor, loan officer, whatever, because, and I'm not going to change it because I don't want to be responsible for, muddling everything up. I said, you do it. So these two have something in common. So I sent one of them to Mohammed. And I said, what do you think? And he said, okay, well then the answer I had expected.
Mm.
And it was for Mark, of course. Send me a full proposal.
Right.
So, and thinking principally, I'll just skip over what I did for George without picking it apart. And that's what I'm going to say to him next, because I have a prepared answer already, which comes off of, and I'll just let you in very quickly on what I said to him. He says, okay, we are short-term, blah, blah, with huge potential for profit.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, George, everything you say in a proposal of that nature, with put that way, you have to substantiate.
Mm-hmm.
You have to substantiate from sources, not in your employ, Wall Street Journal, I don't care, International, New York Times, Ernst & Young, wherever you get it. Because if you don't, somebody's going to ask and you're not ready and you lost your 10 seconds. That's what I told Ryan. I said, Ryan, starting off in New York, I learned that if I'm going to approach somebody, they have to know what I have to say to them in 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Then if they're interested, I get to stay and chat and whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's that way with Mohammed, who said, okay, send me a proposal, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I have to tell Mark tomorrow.
Right.
Well, George, I'm going to have to say the same thing to him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That you have to wake up. Now, George's particular case, and maybe even Mark, because I don't believe either one of them has the wherewithal that you do, which is what I consider to be one of your strongest talents and abilities, is to put together a proposal.
Okay.
Right? I'm not asking you to, I'm just preparing you because it's swirling around, up here. And I want you to be prepared should it come that way, and give you an opportunity early to comment about whether or not you can do that, or, well, yeah, because there's a potential for making good money from doing, and here's the key point, what they can't do.
Right.
Whether it's somebody needing an interpretation of what the hell data science is, and I want to speak to that for a second, or whatever, or how do you put together a proposal that, which you do, as I mentioned, and I'll be happy to mention for a long, long time, so brilliantly. And so that's why I think, not because I'm driving in that direction, but because it's a resource that we have, right?
Yeah.
That you have demonstrated on numerous occasions, and your creative flair, but yet at the same time, your solemn, sober approach to those kinds of things is what people are going to need before they cut a check, or before lots of other stuff. And opportunities would be there along the way if we run into the need for a specific that we don't have. Well, we got a big swimming pool in the backyard, and we can go and pull a barracuda or a goldfish out of there, whatever we need. Now let me tidy up by saying one other thing about what I did about data science. Yesterday, I put you on the spot, and I'm looking at this from a branding point of view.
Right.
I asked a question that you weren't ready for. And, I felt a little apologetic about it all day. And then when I stopped thinking about it, an answer came to me. And that answer was, and I don't mean to be, rude or anything, was you should have known,
I should have. Well,
right?
yeah,
Because that's what people are going to ask you.
exactly. Yeah.
What is data science? And I wanted to jump in and say, but I let the moment go as it was. I wanted to say, it's a scientific approach to data, which is an immediate answer, of course, and data science and whatever.
right.
It seemed to work perfectly. So I would like to comment only that, especially, if somebody comes to you and says, or comes to me and says, what's the play about? I have to be able to tell him, like I told Ryan, you can start with 10 words, but it's going to end up with 3.
Yep.
Right. And I think we've learned, or I would like to introduce my impressions, which I just have, on yesterday and today.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree. And that's, I guess, something that, not that I don't have those words in my mind, but I have other definitions as well. And, with I go into the depth of,
Wow, that was nice. You just turned pink.
Yeah, I just saw that here too.
Great.
So
you're a shapeshifter, aren't you?
Maybe.
Okay.
I didn't know.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah. So my approach, I mean, what I'm learning from you, and this is, why, we make such a great combination of skills and attributes, is that, how to present a definition. And, for me, it's like when I want to define something, it's okay, there's these 4 pillars and 5 values and 3 perspectives, and let me start to tell you all about them at once.
Yeah, can I get you a drink first?
Yeah. And that's just, but I guess, the way that I've done it, but there is a better way. And like you're saying,
or a different way.
Or
it depends on the situation, right?
That's right. And yeah, if I'm in front of a class and, I've got 45 minutes, then, I can set it up that way and say, this is what you're about to learn. But, coming into that conversation when someone's going that way, you're waiting to go in that way and say, what's the movie about? That's a different story. And yeah, we need and can have that definition of the scientific application to data. And that really sums it up in terms of taking the scientific mind, to the physical realm of what we have as data, and the output that comes from that through the process of working out what it is we're doing in the world.
Yeah. It leads me to think, well, how many other approaches to data are there? Which,
Right.
you might want to comment on, just to sort of, situate where the person is headed, or where we want them to go, or how we're going to answer.
So I think data is getting accumulated, it's almost just because of how digitized the world is becoming as a byproduct. And a non-scientific approach would be to not actually collect it first, and not actually look at it at all, and then not actually take action from what you've seen. So this is the difference, what data science enables in the role of a data scientist is brings that process of using the data to a level of actual action. And there's non-scientific application to data happening all the time. And it's in some ways very difficult to apply a scientific approach to all the data because of the amount that's there. But what we can do is say, okay, we've got a subject or a goal that we want to enhance or gain more understanding of in order to take further actions. And so we're going to collect some data on that and apply a scientific mind towards, you know, what it means to us and to
them
give us,
too.
Yeah, to everybody who looks at it, to give them a guide on what to do next.
You know, this picture popped into my head of some guy, his friend comes by and he says, you know, Troy, I saw Danny with Layla. And you might react, right? Depending on your disposition. And you might get angry, you might, you know, wondering what's going on there? Why in the world does he need to see her without me? And you jump to a conclusion, you know, right or wrong, it doesn't matter. But then you may introduce, you know, the data scientific approach to it by asking questions or by supplying more information. Because, you know, we could be planning a secret birthday party for you. Or, you know, I could be trying to be more friendly with her because, you know, she's your girlfriend or something like that. And you wouldn't know if you didn't look into it.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So you know, as a friend talking with you about that, I might say, now, Troy, let's look at this. Right?
That's right.
And all that information would save you a lot of headaches, possibly, right?
Exactly.
Or it could give you information that you could say, I didn't know. She said that she wasn't seeing you or something like that. So it can go a number of different directions based on, well, you call it data, I'll call it information.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, for me, the definition and transition from data to information is the process of actually looking at it. If it's just data, it's kind of like
it's like grains of wheat. I think about it, right?
Well, what's that case with the cat? Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah, you don't know if it's alive or dead until you observe it. So the data is in a box, and you know, until we actually have a look at it, it's not information. It's just in a state of either or, alive or dead.
State of rest, really?
Yeah, so data can exist in that state of rest or unknown or states, and then yeah, we take an observation of it, it becomes information, and that information can be analyzed and processed and combined with other information to give us.
It's like value added, if you'll excuse the term, right?
Yeah, well, definitely that's a component of data science, ensuring that the cost benefit is there, because, you know, sometimes it takes money or effort or time to actually open the box and look at it. And you have to have a drive and I guess an idea that actually looking in that box is going to be worth the effort to do so. And sometimes it's really easy because the data is just floating around in there and, you know, you can get it. But sometimes it takes a little bit of effort and planning. And then when you do open the box, you've got to clean the data and you got to work out what's good and what's not. So the value add really depends on, you know, what the outcomes are going to be. And we do our best to identify, you know, what are the valuable actions in terms of doing data science on what data is required. And to put it in a bit of more of a context, so I can use the example of OCIDEAS. So OCIDEAS is an occupational integrated database for exposure assessments. And that means that if you do a certain job, then you're probably going to be exposed to certain hazards. And epidemiologists and those that are focused on occupations come into this field of analysis, and they want to find out which jobs are causing which diseases. So that was a kind of a goal that the people I was working with, namely one Professor Lynn Fritchie at Curtin University, she saw real value in pursuing that. She wanted to get into the data and see, okay, what's the cause of these diseases? And as a data scientist, we started opening different boxes, and it didn't just involve data, but tools and processes of analyzing data. What we found was the knowledge of whether someone was exposed to a certain hazard was locked in the brain of what we call expert exposure assessors. And there's only a handful of these around the world that it's their job to assess occupations and see if there's a hazard or a problem. And using our data science approach of what we call expert systems, we took the knowledge of what's locked in their brain and put it into a database. So it's basically their rules. Say if they see someone in this job and they do this task and they're not wearing any protective gear, then they're going to be exposed. So in doing that, it took a lot of time actually to go through and work out, and everybody's got to put the rules in. And now people in this space combined their knowledge to build the rules. Before it was kind of individual, and someone would say, oh, this person's exposed, and then the next person would say, well, I don't agree. And if that happened after the report came out, then there's nothing they can do about it. But what we've taken the process to be able to create a rule, and then someone can actually dispute that before it's applied, or say, you're forgetting about this part, and they can collaborate on these rules because we've digitized them. And that data then can be used to run across thousands and tens of thousands of other pieces of data, which are the questionnaires that they ask. So they go out and ask people what job they have and what they do in their job, and then apply these rules in a matter of minutes, which, before they had this tool, would take months and sometimes a year or more to analyze.
It sounds rather quantitative. Can you also deal with qualitative information?
Well, this is the beauty of the program as well, is that it doesn't remove the need for the exposure assessor. They still look at the rules being fired, and they don't leave it at that. They come in and they actually, some of the enhanced features that we've added now is these color patterns. So when you fire off the back end, what we call the assessment rules, auto assessment rules, it displays a pattern of colors in terms of yellow for low, orange for medium, and red for high. And you get little boxes appearing with the exposures to different, what we call agents. And then based on those patterns, the assessors can dig in and look at a particular case, and they might look at one that has varied different colors, and they want to investigate what's going on. And then after a while, they'll see that pattern again and they go, I've seen this, I know what to do. And they can do what we call the manual assessment. So the manual assessment still happens, but it's really assisted greatly by the OC tool to give them an image, a pattern colored kind of a montage of all the agents. And sometimes we have like up to 30 or 40 different agents. And yeah, all different jobs and people and what they did. So that it still requires the kind of interaction with the human and that override capability of the assessor saying, well, even though the rules are fine here, I'm going to override it. And that is actual feedback into the system so that when next time the review comes around, they say, well, you know, I ran this study, but I was always overriding this rule. I think we need a different rule or add to the rule. And the rule database is growing as it's being used. So that's how that, yeah, the qualitative aspect comes in, is that, you know, it's not stock standard, that's it. Now we've done it, we go away, but it's interactive with the people that are the assessors, and they're, you know, building the rules as they use them. And the other great thing is that the younger generation can come and read the rules and say, okay, if I want to become an assessor, this is the sorts of things I can work with and quickly get up to speed with all the knowledge that has, you know, from some of the more senior people transcribed into the database itself, so they can see all the knowledge that has been put in, absorb that, and then add their own. So it's a great training tool as well.
It sounds rather integral, you know, not separate, where I would press a button, you know, or put a coin in a machine, pull a lever, and I get my candy bar. You know,
Well,
which
that's definitely, yeah, needs to, I mean, do some level of automation, but we don't want to do it so that the human's not involved and it does become just kind of, even though it's got a level of sophistication, but to let it run on its own wouldn't do, you know, very quickly it'd get out of date and be, you know, incorrect because of how much change we have in the world. But the point really I want to emphasize is that the value, the cost benefit had to be analyzed, and you know, the effort it took to build up the database and for everybody to have a user-friendly interface need to outweigh this outcome of being able to, the value of being able to identify disease early or causes of diseases in workplaces.
is it worth it?
Yeah, that's right. And there's still a question around that, because a lot of cultures or you know, the aspects of around that is that you know, they don't want to know, some of them don't want to know that they're having a problem.
Added costs, precautions.
Yeah, yeah. And if it and the really sad part of it is that if there's no governmental rule or, you know, the enforcement saying, you know, for example, a simple example is seatbelts, you know, putting on your seatbelt. If there's no enforcement of the police saying, hey, you're not wearing your seatbelt, here's a fine, then people you know, don't, or some of the organizations that find it more cheaper to not install seatbelts would produce these cars without seatbelts, particularly in the construction industry. And if there's not a hard and fast, if there's not a legal rule for them to actually wear a helmet, then people don't buy their staff helmets. And
If I can get away with it, why do it?
that's right.
Well, we have an organization in the United States, which everybody hates, and it's
Yeah.
called OSHA,
Yeah.
Occupational Safety and Health Organization, right?
Uh-huh.
Which can go overboard. Many people have told me things like that, right?
Sure.
But I think its original purpose was to prevent injuries on the job.
Mm-hmm.
Mechanical things, particularly. I think it began with where you have belt drives where it's far too easy to stick your hand in something, and suffer an injury or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But how do if it's true what I say, that this organization generates a great deal of dislike from everyone, from the people on the floor to the people in the office. Is that a kind of conclusion that would affect the kinds of restrictions that a company or an organization like OSHA would do to a company? Like, say, you can't do that, and then the company says it's not cost effective. Can that be programmed into this analysis so that the opinion of the employer, right, who says I can't do this tomorrow, it's going to take time, and the Occupational Safety and Health Organization says, but you're going to, or we're going to shut you down, which is not very friendly and not very productive. So and you're losing employment in the community, as opposed to losing a finger or whatever. And I'm not valuing one over the other. How does that communication happen? Is it part of the program, or is this something different?
It's kind of interweaved, but it's not something that is, I think, presented as it should be, which, I'm discovering as we're talking now, to have it promote, not just you need to do this. And so OC Ideas has done the assessment, and they see that, there's an high exposure for this type of job. And then the rule goes out, or the, law says, okay, now everybody needs to do this. For an example, there was an Australian work exposure study done a couple of years ago. And one of the things they found was with firefighters, after the bushfires happened around Australia, the fire crew would still go out into the fields after the fire's been put out, but a lot of them weren't wearing the respirator, and because there wasn't smoke, but there is still these chemicals coming out of the ash and the burnt wood. So as part of that, a new kind of rule, or I guess standard, was set that, firefighters going into burnt forests after there's no smoke still need to wear the respirator. So the value from that, people would see, okay, the fire brigade perhaps seeing, oh no, now we've got to make sure everybody's got a respirator, and maybe there was only a few respirators and things like that. So it's an added cost to them to ensure not just to get the information out, but the equipment too. But ultimately, it's saving the health. And this is where the difficult part comes, is, say, in the future, what is the health of that one firefighter worth if he, can only work up to his 40s, and then, have a problem with his lungs, what is that worth to the employer, actually? Yeah, to have another 20 years or whatever service that person provides. And yeah, that's a difficult angle to take, is to say, you know, what it's actually saving the employer. Because they might, and yeah, the sinister ones will be like, well, I'll just get another guy. So yeah, but OC ideas could do some level of, you know, value assessment to at least like try to say, okay, applying these new rules because of OC ideas has increased the lifespan of the firefighters, which equates to this level of value. It's still, I'm still trying to think about how it could be put in my mind as I'm saying it, but
Yeah,
it's got to be
in the
worth
US. Yeah, in the US, you know, they're constantly assessing the value of this information, because what if something is reported to, let's say, a company that they don't find beneficial or cost effective for them, they get a lawyer, right? So then they
Right.
take it to court. And if it survives the court, well, you may actually have difficulties with the legislature, right? One way or another to present that evidence, I guess, right? And in presenting that evidence, don't you have to somehow or another validate that the results, the data that you used and the results that you came up with are valid under the law, let's say, as just a shortcut for understanding? Or that would be another program, or how would that work?
Well,
or what would you do if you were faced with that kind of a situation where people are trying to, you know, buffalo you and somebody else is trying to steamroll it? You know, you've got two forces that are trying to either disqualify the results achieved,
yeah,
or say that your results are contrary to the law, as it were, because, you know, everything is open to interpretation, right? One way or the other.
That's right. So, I mean, yeah, that's, I guess, part of the reason why we don't go fully automated in terms of, you know, making these decisions and saying, you know, the data is saying this. It's an effort of continual assessment with a human computer interaction. And I, as a data scientist, love, you know, getting the data and cleaning it and presenting it and making sure it gives a picture as
crunching it.
Yeah,
you're crunching the data, right?
Without introducing my own subjectivity or, you know, thoughts on what I'm looking for, but I can present it in a way, that makes sense to the people that want to see what's going on.
Isn't it difficult to keep your personal opinion out of something like that? You know, you have a bias for this, or you think, well, I already know the answer.
Definitely, it's there as well. And that's why, you know, it's something you need to be constantly aware of, is and present it, you know, with all the process that it went through in order to get, whether it's a graph or a tool, to say, you know, this is how it works. And for
you sound like a
ideas,
forensic pathologist, you know, just going through all the data to come up with evidence to, you know, find who a perpetrator was and bring them to justice in some, maybe I'm getting a little far out there, but that's how I see it, or how I equate it, you know, on a broader scheme.
I think, you know, it's like we've been saying, data science can be applied to any kind of goal. And, you know, it's the fun process of investigation and discovery and ongoing work that, you know, in order to use the data and technology we have and somehow make a process more effective or efficient or more, you know, make the world a better place. And that's what we've done with Doc Ideas. It's taken a lot of investment, it's a lot of time, but now people are recognizing the value, and it's being used actually with the EU OSHA, the Occupational Health and Safety Group that manages the European Union.
Wow, interesting. I guess that's some evidence of it proving its worth. Wonderful. Troy, what do you say we call it a day with this one? Yeah.
Yep.
And
Okay.
pick up next time. It's always interesting, you know. And I want to say, I'm not doing this for the audience, really, you know, because sometimes it gravitates towards, well, let's talk about data science with, you know, cock my eye towards other people who may be listening. But it's because I want to know, you know, I get very curious about this, and you come up with answers that are very satisfying for me. And I want to say thank you and congratulate you on your approach.
Well,
great.
You know, it's been, a pleasure for me as well. I think, you know, doing it this way gives not just us the opportunity to interact, but others to come and see and to listen. And hopefully we can be a value to the others that want to have similar questions like you have. And then
Well, we'll see, won't we?
I've got to get.
We'll see.
Very soon that we'll be talking about branding and marketing and identity and image. So those questions are going to be coming up as well. And I think this is the value, is our unique combination of skills and attributes that
and who knows, maybe it'll attract people that we can work with, right?
Yeah.
To help doing on a different level or a different way of assessing your potential, a person or organization's potential, in how to more effectively communicate with the general public or with their own employees or whatever, you know. And then of course the big thing now is identity, right? Who are we, and what kind of image do we portray to the general public, and is it working? Should we try something else? Because all this stuff gets to be really personal, right? If it's working.
Exactly.
And everybody's buying into it, or so they say, but it gets personal.
Yes.
For everybody. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Danny.
Very much.
All right.
I'll let you press the button. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And we'll catch you tomorrow. Okay.
Yep. Great.
Okay. All right.